folks. Thanks for tuning in. Figured I'd yap a little bit on my way home tonight. First snow of the winter season and first snow of 2020 where I'm at, which I'm abnormally nervous about because I'm in a manual transmission sports car with a V8 and no traction control. So I'm going to be trying to take it pretty easy tonight. Anyway, what was on my mind is actually a phone call I had with my wife on break last night. Essentially, what we were talking about is over the summer, she had seen the two sides of the BLM discussion on social media. And you know, like the pro and con, and then what people were saying about BLM both ways. Okay? In my opinion, that's a fair conversation to have. Pardon me. Well, now she's seeing essentially the same conversation, albeit slightly different, about the Trump supporters that went to D.C. and acted like fools and hypocrites. Well, anyway, she was talking to me like, you know, I work 40 hours a week, I've got 4 kids, and I try to do my best to make a home when I'm home. What do I do to try, you know, like what can normal people do to try to get back to civility? She's like, I don't think there's anything we can do. She's like, it has to be someone that we elect that does things and gets back to civility. I said, no. And I kind of went through some of my thought processes on why those in politics and those in elected office and those in media will never try to become civil with the other side. And I'll go through that here in a minute, but basically I said it doesn't start there, it starts with you. She's like, what do you mean? I said, find someone that disagrees with you or that's registered to the opposite party or voted the opposite way from you, and then sit down and have an actual conversation. No name calling, no this, that, or the other. Explain why you think that, you know, just not what you think, but why you think that way. And, you know, that your decisions are not party line, that you've actually thought these out, and the who, what, when, where, how, why kind of thing. And she's like, huh. Like, in my opinion, that's the way it starts. And here's the reason why I say that. Politicians don't get elected by saying that their opponent in an election is a nice guy, is, you know, a decent human that they disagree with a handful of things on. See John McCain. John McCain never really slammed Barack Obama in 2008. He said we disagree about a few things, but he's not a bad man. But anyway, politicians aren't going to win on that sort of stance on reality. And then on top of that, okay, if I write a inflammatory inflammatory news article, even citing all facts, but in my opinions on the facts being outrageous, defamatory, and belligerent towards people whom I disagree with politically, I will get more clicks, views, subscriptions, etc. than I did if I wrote the article with the same facts but more nuanced detail. Clickbait's a real thing. You put up a insane article headline and you get insane views. You put up a normal article headline, you get normal views. You put out insane news stories on your news network, you get better viewership. This is somewhat well documented. So the incentive structure for those in established media and in politics isn't there to be overly civil. And I don't think that it will happen that way. I think that in order for us to get back to civilized behavior and dialogue with people that disagree with us, it has to be something that individuals start from the bottom. I work next to you on the assembly line where I work. I go and sit next to you at church. I hang out with you on the weekends, whatever, and I might disagree with you about a handful of things. But guess what? We can still talk. We can still have civilized discussion. We can, as friends, calmly debate our differences in thought and either change minds or agree to disagree. But fewer and fewer people have real interactions with those that disagree with them. Over the years, church attendance has fallen. Now, I think that's a bad thing for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is that in churches, you can have people that are registered in either party and then are for or against dozens of things that their party may or may not be for or against. And they may not agree with the people that they vote for. It's just the person that most closely represents their worldview and what they feel and think should be done. Okay? Well, guess what? You sit next to that person every Sunday and maybe go to a church function with them or whatever, and you realize that, hey, I disagree with them, but they're not bad. They're not a bad person. And the same thing goes for Knights of Columbus, Rotary Club, Optimist Clubs, Shriners, Masonic Lodges. The attendance has dropped in those clubs and fraternities over the years, and fewer people are hanging out with those that they might have slight disagreement with. You go on Facebook, which I am on social media probably more than I should be, not gonna lie, but I'm on social media and I can only befriend folks that see every issue the way I do. I can join groups that do not oppose my worldview on many, if any, fronts. I can chill out in my own echo chamber and read the clickbait articles and the clickbait stories and look at the memes, and before you know it, I might have a very dishonestly colored worldview about people who are registered different from me to vote. And I do not believe that's a healthy thing. It's very frustrating to me when you have people that are pro or anti legislate into law just because that's the party position. I've said this before on one of these videos, and I'll say it again. Buddy of mine, Danny, of I'm No Expert, we haven't gotten together due to COVID and 1,000 other reasons. But he and I used to disagree 180 degrees on firearms. And one time I told him about the dumbest anti-firearm discussion I ever had with anyone. And they were essentially willing to do away with my right to keep and bear arms. And they knew nothing about guns or nothing about the American history surrounding the Second Amendment, nothing about why it was written, nothing about the Supreme Court decisions that had been handed down in Second Amendment cases, and knew nothing about, as I said, they knew nothing about firearms. And I told him that, I said, you know, look, whether you are for or against anything, if you want to make a coherent argument or have a coherent debate, you better know your stuff. And the case in point is, she's like, why would you need an AK-47? I said, well, you could single fire it and deer hunt with it. She's like, you can't do that, it'd ruin the meat. I said, ma'am, the rounds that shoot out of my gun to go deer hunting are bigger than the bullets in an AK-47. And she looked at me like she didn't believe me, but I've got a gun. It's not an AK, but the 7.62 by 39 is a very common round. You can get ARs, you can get bolt actions, you can get all sorts of weapons that will fire that round. And the 7.62 by 39 is a very competent round, but I've got 2 or 3 deer rifles in the house that shoot way bigger stuff, that hit harder, travel farther, travel flatter, and pack more velocity in foot-pounds. So, you know, don't come to me with your uninformed opinions on guns, because I do know my stuff. There are topics that I don't know a lot about, and I don't come down real hard on them. I can think that something needs to be done, but I'll be the first one to say this needs to change, but I don't know how, because I'm not the wealth of knowledge on this topic. So I just wish that people would have honest conversations with people that disagree with them on any variety of topics, so long as everyone agrees. I'm not going to assume that you have a bad motive for thinking the way that you think, and I'm not going to let you assume that about me. I'm going to assume that you have reasons for disagreeing. I'm going to assume that you'll listen to what I have to say, and even if you still disagree, you've at least heard me. And at the end of this, we can either come to some sort of middle ground, agree to disagree or whatever, but the ability to come back and have more conversations is there. And unfortunately, due to all of the institutions, whether it's politics or bridge that was frozen, that was a little bit of a pucker moment. Unfortunately, due to all the incentives in politics and in bridge, oh, it's frozen good, I can see it. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting ride home. I just don't see that being likely to happen from the top down. It's something that we're going to have to start from the bottom up, and at the end of the day, if you start becoming civil with people that you disagree with, the unrest parties everywhere, and when I say parties, I don't mean the elected officials, I mean the voting base everywhere will drop. And you might have politicians talking like they're ready to jump in the octagon and go with their opponent, but we need to understand that that's what wins them the election, is a good verbal, oh, gotcha, good. That doesn't solve the problems in society, in my opinion. That's what I got. Hope y'all are having a good 2020 so far. Can we just take the alcohol away from 2021, make it sober up, put it into rehab, and maybe we can treat it like it's 19 again for 5 years until it's figured out how to handle its liquor. Y'all, that's what I got.